What if I told you there's a hidden tax most Americans pay every day? A tax you never see on any receipt. It raises prices on everything: the shoes on your feet, the phone in your pocket. This tax has been embraced by politicians from both parties. They call it protecting American jobs. But it actually does the opposite. I'm talking about tariffs. They're taxes on imported goods. And today we'll explore how these seemingly patriotic policies are actually crushing our economy from the inside out. By the end of this video, you'll understand why economists across the political spectrum agree. Tariffs might sound good in campaign speeches, but the economic reality? It tells a very different story. So what exactly are tariffs? Simply put, they're taxes placed on goods imported from other countries. When a container ship arrives from China, Japan, or Germany, U.S. Customs collects these taxes before products can enter our market. Tariffs have been part of U.S. trade policy since our nation's founding. In fact, before the income tax was established in 1913, tariffs were the government's main source of revenue. But modern tariffs aren't mainly about generating revenue. Today, they're used as a tool to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. The logic seems straightforward. If foreign goods become more expensive through tariffs, American-made alternatives become comparatively cheaper. This encourages consumers to buy American and supports U.S. jobs. That's the theory, at least. But the economic reality? It's far more complicated and far less beneficial than tariff supporters claim. Here's what tariff supporters don't emphasize. American consumers and businesses bear the cost of these taxes, not foreign countries. Let's take a simple example. When the U.S. imposes a 25% tariff on steel imports, American companies that use steel face a tough choice. They can either pay 25% more for imported steel or buy American steel. And American steel producers? They can now raise their prices since foreign competition has been handicapped. Either way, production costs increase. And these costs? They get passed down to you, the American consumer. One study found that tariffs on washing machines raised prices by nearly 12%. This cost American consumers an additional $1.5 billion per year. That's about $86 per washing machine, and it's not just big appliances. In 2018, when new tariffs were imposed on Chinese goods, economists calculated that American consumers and businesses paid virtually all the costs, not Chinese exporters. This is the first secret way tariffs crush our economy. They function as a stealth tax on American consumers. They raise prices across the board, and they reduce purchasing power for every household. But wait, tariff supporters say, higher prices are worth it if we're protecting American jobs. This brings us to the second way tariffs secretly harm our economy. While they may save some jobs in protected industries, they actually destroy more jobs throughout the broader economy. When the Bush administration imposed steel tariffs in 2002, studies found something alarming. Higher steel prices led to job losses in steel-consuming industries. These losses exceeded any job saved in steel production by about 8 to 1. Why? Because for every worker producing steel in America, there are many more workers in industries that use steel as an input: auto manufacturing, construction, appliance making. When their costs rise due to tariffs, these industries become less competitive globally. This often leads to layoffs or reduced hiring. Even more concerning, other countries typically retaliate with their own tariffs on American exports. After recent tariffs on Chinese goods, China responded with tariffs on American agricultural products. U.S. farmers were forced to rely on government subsidies just to stay afloat. Their export markets dried up. The painful truth is this: tariffs typically protect a small, visible group of workers, but they harm a much larger, less visible group. The result? A net loss of American jobs. The third way tariffs undermine our economy: they reduce innovation and productivity growth. When domestic companies are shielded from foreign competition, they face less pressure to innovate, less pressure to improve efficiency, less pressure to reduce costs. It's basic economic incentives. Why invest heavily in developing better products when tariffs ensure you can sell your existing products at artificially competitive prices? Economic research consistently shows a clear pattern. Industries exposed to robust international competition see faster productivity growth. Protected industries don't. For example, after NAFTA reduced trade barriers with Mexico and Canada, U.S. manufacturing productivity accelerated. Companies were forced to adapt or lose market share. This productivity difference compounds over time. Protected industries may preserve jobs in the short term, but they gradually become less globally competitive. This ultimately puts their long-term survival at risk. We saw this play out in the American auto industry. It was protected from Japanese competition in the 1980s, but it fell behind in quality and efficiency. This led to much more painful adjustments later. By reducing the competitive pressure that drives innovation, tariffs slowly erode America's technological edge. And that's the very advantage we need to maintain our economic leadership. The fourth and perhaps most concerning way tariffs damage our economy? Their geopolitical consequences. When the United States imposes significant tariffs, it doesn't just affect prices and jobs. It fundamentally alters our relationships with trading partners. Countries that face U.S. tariffs typically respond in three ways. First, they impose retaliatory tariffs on American goods. Second, they seek new trading partners to replace the U.S. market. And third, they become less willing to cooperate with America on other international issues. We've seen this pattern repeatedly. After the U.S. imposed tariffs on European steel and aluminum in 2018, the EU responded strategically. They placed tariffs on American products specifically chosen to cause political pain. Bourbon from Kentucky. Motorcycles from Wisconsin. Meanwhile, both China and the EU strengthened trading relationships with each other. They reduced their dependence on American markets. Perhaps most concerning is how trade conflicts spill over. Countries that feel unfairly targeted by American tariffs become less cooperative, less likely to support U.S. initiatives on climate change, less helpful with security concerns, less willing to apply diplomatic pressure on rogue states. By wielding tariffs as a weapon, we may gain short-term leverage, but we lose long-term influence in shaping the global economic order, an order that has generally benefited American interests for decades. If tariffs are so problematic, what alternatives exist to address legitimate concerns about trade? First, targeted assistance for displaced workers. Rather than protecting specific industries through tariffs that raise prices for everyone, we could expand programs that help workers transition. Education, training, relocation assistance. These help workers find new opportunities. Second, investment in competitive advantages. America's economic strength has always come from innovation and productivity. Increased funding for research, infrastructure, and education would help U.S. companies compete globally, and without the counterproductive effects of tariffs. Third, international coordination on standards. Many concerns about trade could be addressed through multilateral agreements. Environmental practices, labor conditions. Setting common standards works better than unilateral tariffs that invite retaliation. Fourth, currency and investment policies. Some countries gain unfair advantages through currency manipulation or subsidies. We can address these issues directly through international financial institutions. This would be more effective than broad tariffs that primarily hurt American consumers. The key insight is this: we can address the legitimate challenges of global trade without resorting to tariffs. Tariffs function as a self-imposed economic handicap. The evidence is clear. Despite their political appeal, tariffs secretly crush the U.S. economy. Higher consumer prices, net job losses, reduced innovation, damaged international relationships. These are the real costs. Understanding these hidden effects is crucial for all of us. What sounds like economic patriotism often turns out to be economic self-harm. The next time you hear a politician promising to get tough with tariffs, remember this: the toughness is actually directed at us, American consumers, American workers, American businesses. We end up footing the bill for these counterproductive policies. If we truly want to strengthen America's economy, we need to embrace strategies that enhance our competitiveness and resilience, not policies that merely raise our own costs while reducing our global influence. If you found this analysis helpful, please subscribe for more videos that go beyond the political talking points. Let me know in the comments. Have tariffs affected your industry or the prices you pay? I'd love to hear your perspective.